Mark your calendars and circle a date because Penn State Sports Night is back. And if we're back, that means Penn State football is back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Mariah Elizondo alongside Chris Machado and Joey David. Penn State football played West Virginia this past Saturday in Beaver Stadium during the annual helmet stripe. It was the fourth highest attendance for a record for Beaver Stadium with 110,000 fans and a squirrel in showing up for the season home opener. Penn State sophomore Drew Aller made his debut as starting quarterback and completed 29 passes for 325 yards and 3 touchdowns. His teammates running back Nicholas Singleton, wide receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith, and linebacker Curtis Jacobs were also huge playmakers this weekend. The Nittany Lions won, ending the game 38-15 and will face Delaware this upcoming Saturday at Beaver Stadium. Kickoff is at noon. Now I want to ask you guys this question. We'll start with you, Chris. Who do you think stepped up this weekend, or who do you think needs to?
Well, this past weekend was 100% Drew Aller. I mean, hey, in your intro, you listed all of his accolades, and guess what? No interceptions, because why not just add it in there? And I mean, hey, we've had some rough years of Penn State football. I mean, we all know a 6-year quarterback that could never post those numbers. But anyway, hey, Drew Aller, he's looked like, he had 2 years already under his belt. He looked fantastic against the Mountaineers this past weekend, back on Saturday. And you know what? A lot of people forget because he did appear in 10 games last year, but everybody was like, okay, it's his first start in college, Power 5 conference game, both ways, Big 10 versus Big 12, a lot of eyeballs all over Drew Aller. And you know what? He played fantastic. And, the O-line did struggle just a little bit. And, Joey, I don't know about you. I know you were there in Beaver Stadium as well. But, hey, is it weird to say that he looked more accurate on the run? And don't forget, he's a big kid. He can also take a hit. We did see him, get sacked pretty hard in the ribs one time. But, hey, I know we don't really remember it because this kid does have a baby face, but hey, 6'5", like 243 pounds. He is absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to see what he's going to pull against the Blue Hens.
Chris, I'm not even going to move anywhere else because you're right. He is the focal point of this game. It's a whole new era nowadays. It's the Drew Aller era. And he looked great. You talked about it earlier. No interceptions. And everyone loves to oogle at the stat lines. They love the box scores. And when you look at Aller's game, you see the box score and you're like, wow, that is a great debut for someone making his first start in his new era. And now you come in to look at it, and it wasn't as great as the numbers said. The 72-yard touchdown to Keandre Lambert-Smith, little underthrown, almost intercepted, but it's early. He's still going to go through his learning curve. He's still going to have to make some adjustments, but he did a great job feeding all the different mouths there on the offense. That wide receiver room is stacked, and there's just so much depth in it, and he was able to use a little bit of everyone. The tight end room, I'll get to it later, but he didn't really use that much. And again, I will talk about that later. And even the running backs, they were still able to be effective and help this team win the game.
So I guess you could say he's almost Trace McSorley. But it is too early to tell. Okay, Joey, we'll start with you this time. What do you think the Nittany Lions honestly need to polish up for this upcoming weekend?
The one thing that I want to spotlight on is offensive play calling, and most importantly, now I'll come back to it, the tight ends. The tight ends need more love. Tyler Warren had 1 catch for 9 yards. Theo Johnson, nothing. They need to use them more. You were talking about it earlier, getting Drew Aller in motion. One thing that I want to see the Nittany Lions start doing a little bit more for later on in the season, get Drew Aller in motion, work play action, hit these tight ends in stride on the run, and I promise you, it'll be a first down pretty much every time. And these guys are athletic enough, they might just break a couple off. And other than that, I want to see them work up the seams more. I want Penn State to really work the entire field and use this strong arm that Drew Aller has, because they've been too reliant on the flats. They use too many bubble screens, and I hate bubble screens. And if you do them too often, they're going to know it's coming. Stop using the flats so much. Stop playing the horizontal game. Be more vertical, and the score's just going to keep driving up.
Yeah, and to touch on what Penn State did negatively, but Joey, just to back you up real quick, I mean, I think I only saw Tyler Warren get the ball 2 times. Maybe he was only targeted a handful, or maybe even less than that. But one thing I really, really need to focus on right now for these Nittany Lions is 2 things: their O-line and then the entire defense as a whole. So, example, I mentioned that Drew Aller got sacked, right? And he fortunately, he was accurate on the run, but for a kid his size, he really shouldn't be on the run. And we heard a lot of ESPN analysts say that, Penn State's coming in, one of the top O-lines in the nation. Did you see that? Mariah, did you see that?
No.
I really didn't. For a team that almost everybody and their mom was calling the worst Power 5 team coming into this year, that being West Virginia, your O-line should be able to hold them, especially if you're Penn State, especially with the expectations that you have on the line this year, because us three here, we all know what Penn State's thinking. You go 10-2 again this year, the year's a fail. I think that they're definitely looking to split either Ohio State and Michigan. We'll see which one, hopefully. But at the end of the day, now to switch back over to the defense, I have it right here. James Franklin did say that exact quote. He loved the job that Manny Diaz did with the defense over the weekend. He said that back on Monday on Media Day. I just want to know, what job is he talking about? I'm sorry, because Abdul Carter, he got his ankles broken by West Virginia's quarterback. We all saw that, and a few of the people I was sitting around in Beaver Stadium said, ooh, ah, and stuff like that. Just to throw some quick facts at you, West Virginia, not that all great of a team. The Nittany Lions gave up 308 yards of total offense, 17 first downs. I don't really know where they were planning on going. Thankfully, if you don't think James Franklin knows the spread at the end of the day, Penn State did cover. And that's what kept them at 7 in the AP poll. But, I mean, just bad play from the defense all around. West Virginia was able to both beat them on the run and in the air, too. So, thankfully, you do have Delaware if you're Penn State coming in this weekend, and you don't got to worry about the Fighting Illini or the Hawkeyes just yet. But, I mean, we all hear James Franklin, what he says on the Instagram clips. It always starts with I love you, and it always ends with I love you. Well, guess what? As soon as the cameras were out of the locker room this past weekend, I would have pulled the O-line and the defense and said, guess what? This weekend's got to start with, it always starts with get your act, and end with together. Because Delaware, not much of a threat, but, hey, we'll see what happens in Illinois.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with both of you guys. Like, if Penn State also doesn't start hotter in the first quarter, they're going to have some trouble in the near future. But this also brings back to my last question. What do you think you guys we need to see in order for Penn State to have a successful season? Well,
I'll just start. I'm going to mention this again. The Fighting Illini and the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, Delaware shouldn't be much of a threat, if at all. But you got to remember, week 3, it's your first Big Ten game. Granted, of course, it's East versus West. The West, this being the last year that the Big Ten is split up in East and West. West never really puts up a big fight, but I mean, I for one really don't care what a lot of people are saying about the Fighting Illini. I think they can be a dangerous threat, especially if the Penn State defense and O-line play how they did just now against West Virginia. That's why I'm saying, hey, you got to build it up. I don't think that Illinois game is going to be a blowout by any means for the Nittany Lions. In fact, I think it's going to be a shootout. Hey, we all know what happened when they were here. 9 overtimes in the pouring rain, and who walked away with that win? That could certainly happen again. But on Iowa's side, okay, that's the whiteout. Beaver Stadium's going to be a factor. 110 plus, strong. And you just got to get it together, because a lot of people were saying Iowa does not have an offense this year. But, okay, they just beat Utah State 24-14. Iowa looks good, too. And I don't know how they're ranked, and Clemson still is, especially after that. I won't even go there. Yeah. But if you're Penn State, got to get things together.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying it perfectly. It's the early time in the season is when you open up the playbook and see what works, but more importantly, see what doesn't work. And I personally think that we should just focus on going 1-0 every week and just focus on winning. Kidding. We got to look at the 2 big games here. You have the game against Ohio State. You have the game against Michigan, and that graphic might not make sense yet, but I promise you it will when I'm done talking. And these 2 games, it's so easy, right? Just beat these 2 teams? Absolutely not. What you need to see from this team to beat those 2 big dogs in the Big Ten right now, 2 big things. Run defense. Hakeem Beamon has a lot on his plate this year. Their 2-headed running backs on both teams, they're just as good as Penn State's. Maybe even better. They're going to run it down Penn State's throat every single play, and then they're going to throw it when they want to. And if that defensive line can't close up the A and B gaps, especially Beamon, he's not going to be able to do it. And then it's just going to be them running throughout the game. It's going to be a boring game to watch, and Penn State's not going to be in it. So that's why I have that brick wall up there. That defensive line needs to be a wall and stopping the stud running backs. Then you see the fireworks. There needs to be offensive fireworks. I said it earlier. I'm going to talk about it again. Big playability. Drew Aller's arm, fantastic. Pretty much every skill position guy on Penn State's offensive roster has home run speed. Use it. They need the big play. They need everything working for them, not just calling a good game, not just execution, but being able to rely on the athleticism of that team to break away tackles, to break away big plays. that is what's going to get them the win, because the same old dink and dunk offense isn't going to work. They're not going to have that big play threat. They're not going to put safeties back. They're going to stack the box. They're going to make Singleton's life very difficult. They're going to make Allen's life even harder. So if they don't have the fireworks going, there's going to be no effectiveness in the offense, and you might as well kiss these 2 big games goodbye.
With only 7 home games this year, it's going to be a very short season for Happy Valley, but a very important one for the Nittany Lions. Penn State football is showing promise, but time will tell. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Chris Machado and Joey David, I'm Mariah Elizondo. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.